I don't really think nobody fucking with me anyway, you know what I'm saying? 24 fucking hundred. I come from that fucking block. I been out that Johnny, up and up that cutter. If we cannot get.
Welcome back. We back with another reaction video. Today we're reacting to a Justified by Jury video. Unfortunate Demise, the story of Ron Goldman. Now I'm gonna keep it a stack. I have no idea who Ron Goldman is. I might know indirectly by like osmosis, but the name is not clicking in my head right now, brother. So we're gonna see. We're gonna get into it and see what they're talking about.
In the early morning hours of June 13th, 1994, two bodies were found slain in the front yard of a condo in the upscale suburb of Brentwood in Los Angeles, California. It was quickly discovered that one of the bodies belonged to Nicole Simpson, ex-wife of American football star O.J. Simpson. This caused a media firestorm worldwide due to the allegations of whether or not he committed the crime. And over nearly 3 decades, the focus and speculation has been on the pair's rocky marriage, but very little has ever been spoken about the life of the other victim, Ron Goldman, and the legacy his family has fought so hard to upkeep. And in Chapter 18 of the Unfortunate Demise series, we're going to get into the life of Ron, the events leading up to his tragic death, and the lack of justice to his name and to his family in the years that have followed. If there are any other notable people you'd like to see covered in the Unfortunate Demise series, please leave your suggestions in the comments below. Let's get started. Born Ronald Lyle Goldman on July 2nd, 1968, he grew up the eldest of two in Buffalo Grove, a suburb of Chicago. After his parents' divorce in 1974, he and his younger sister Kim would be raised by their father, Fred Goldman, after their mother made it known that she didn't want to be involved in their lives. In an interview with Barbara Walters, it was revealed that the children tried numerous times to reach out to their mother over the years, but to no avail. With their single father juggling work and parenting, Ron was called to be the protector and the authority figure for his little sister. Growing up, he was described as being loving, quiet, but friendly, and overall protective of his friends and family. He was often called to babysit others' kids because he was that responsible, well-rounded kid. And in high school, his kindness was remarkable, but it didn't get him the adoration the cool kids got. He was pretty involved in sports, but didn't earn any varsity letters that many of his friends won. He was quite the jokester, but his position on the social ladder was quite low according to his friends at the time, so he wasn't in the in crowd. It didn't help that he was short and slender, so he didn't make as much of an impression as he would have liked with the ladies either. Still, he maintained his down-to-earth personality that everyone knew him for, so he got around. His father would eventually remarry, and the family gained a new mother figure and new step-siblings. And by this time, Ron was in his late teens, but welcomed the new family dynamic with open arms as the ultimate big brother. He would graduate from Stevenson High School in 1986 and spent his summers volunteering at a residential home helping aid children with cerebral palsy. He spent 8 hours a day helping them get dressed, fed, and up and moving. He quickly became a favorite among the counselors, being the lively member who would blast music in the rec room and get all the children in their wheelchairs on the dance floor. He would go on to attend Illinois State University, where he planned to major in psychology, but after his family had relocated to Los Angeles, he dropped out to follow them to the Golden State, and this is where he had his ultimate transformation. He quickly became enamored with the California lifestyle after seeing the drive that the people in the area had. He taught himself the ropes, as he was determined to become Big Ron, not Lil Ron. He became a surfer, volleyball player, he perfected his charisma, and became a bit of a playboy when he wanted to be. He maintained a great physique by keeping a low-fat diet, and he didn't drink or get involved with any substances. He did get a lot of attention from women, and men wanted to be around him because they knew if they rolled with him, they'd have a blast. Pretty soon, he and his boys were getting into any and every nightclub for free because he knew everybody. Now, he did all of this while holding down many jobs, as he had the drive and the discipline that most lack. He didn't live with his family, instead opting to support himself by working as an employment headhunter and a waiter at spots like the Pierview restaurant in Malibu. He also became a tennis instructor and grew a nice-sized clientele in the area. Going into the 90s, his friends said life with Ron was a big roller coaster ride. You never knew what you would be doing the next day, but you always knew it would be fun. And because he had the looks and the charming personality, doors were constantly opening for him. He had been working as a waiter at the Cheesecake Factory when he was sought out to pose for an advertisement, and according to his sister, it had inspired him to pursue a career in the fashion business, and he put together a modeling video. He got a side gig working as a model for Barry Zelds, owner of the Z90049 store in Brentwood Gardens. He had also expressed wanting to get into acting, and in 1992, he would appear on the dating game show, Studs, in which he portrayed a cocky but confident version of himself in an effort to woo the ladies on the special.
All right, right next to me is Ron Goldman, a 23-year-old tennis pro. Give him a big hand for coming down here. All right. Ron, we'll start with you.
Pro.
You make a good impression on the phone with a woman?
I guess so. I don't like to talk a lot on the phone, so I'm kind of blunt to the point. Just let's get it going.
Be ready at 8. I'll be there. Boom.
Be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We asked the ladies what their impressions were of you when they talked to you on the phone, Ron. And here's what they said. One of them said, rough, wild, and oh, so sexy. Second lady said, this guy is mucho macho. Third lady said, I got a date with Pauly Shook. No, come on. Say it right.
Got a date with Pauly Shook.
In the end, both him and the other contestant will walk away with a nice woman on their arms. He appeared to be one of life's winners. He had a great support system in his family, he was a natural with the ladies, and he and his friends would roam the city in rollerblades. Life by all outward appearances seemed like an adventure. But like many young 20-somethings, he was trying to find his true purpose and felt dissatisfied with his career path. He had tried his hand at a few things, but nothing seemed to fully pan out, and so often he would change his mind on so many things. He had taken some classes at Pierce College when he first got to LA, but didn't finish. He had earned his EMT license, but chose not to pursue that career. He knew that ultimately he wanted to be married and have a family, but by early 1994, his girlfriend of almost 2 years at that time told him that she couldn't commit and would break things off with him. Now back at square one, he still wanted to be married, but with his upbringing not being the most ideal, he wanted to ensure that he had some stability first. He had not long moved to the high-end Brentwood area, and initially struggled to pay rent with the money that he was making at California Pizza Kitchen in the Brentwood Mall. I mean, the price was quoted as being around $750 a month, which in 1994 was pretty steep. But in 2024, I wish my rent was only $750. But either way, you ain't making rent working them kind of wages. However, things would turn around for Ron in the early spring of 1994 when he got a new job as a waiter at the Mezzaluna restaurant, which was an upscale spot, and his service skills were top-notch. He had cut back on socializing but still spent weekend nights on the town, often getting in for free because again, he knew the club's owners. And at some point the idea hit him. I'm in the midst of these owners, and I done worked at all these spots. I'm tired of being at the lower level. And he decided that he was going to open up a bar and restaurant in the Brentwood area. He had a vision for a venue to be known not by a name, but by the Ankh, an Egyptian religious symbol of life that matched the tattoo on his shoulder. And he would dedicate the next 2.5 months to learning all facets of the restaurant bar business. He had some experience working as a promoter, and even went as far as to promote a nightclub party himself, inviting guests to a hot Century City club called Trips. It was also around this time that he and his friends were introduced to Nicole Brown Simpson, ex-wife of O.J. Simpson. He and his friends would occasionally run into her at the local Starbucks, and one day they all just got to talking. She sympathized as she was once a server as well, and by now she was cool with several of the staff up at Mezzaluna's. After a while, she had taken a liking to Ron's kind spirit, and felt that he was a trustworthy guy who was reliable whenever his friends needed him. She saw how he was always walking or borrowing a ride from someone, and because she had 2 cars, she would let him borrow her Ferrari on a few occasions. And your boy was not complaining. It was a hot ride, and it's not every day, or even in most folks' lifetime, that they can say that they've driven one. He and Nicole formed a close bond in a short amount of time, as the pair exercised together and met for coffee and dinner a few times, and many of those times with other friends around. It wasn't always just them two. But he was questioned by a few of his friends whether or not there was any romance between the two, and he said no, which meant no, because according to them, anytime there was romance between Ron and someone else, his friends knew about it. Plus, Ron had beautiful women around him all the time, and was very comfortable having simple platonic relationships with them. And Nicole had a multitude of options too now. But one particular friend of Ron's opened up to the LA Times that he had felt uncomfortable with Ron parading around Nicole, in one particular instance just a week or two before his death, when Ron reveled in the moment that him and Nicole pulled up to the entrance of a popular West Hollywood dance club called The Gate, and everyone was staring at him and this beautiful blonde next to him. That high school Ron that was simply good but never quite recognized was now being glorified, and his friend warned him, hey, when you show up to The Gate with O.J. Simpson's wife, driving her Ferrari, you're asking for trouble. But Ron reassured him that there was little to worry about, because they were just friends. And he had a good heart, and always kept things respectful, so we good. He was still serious about his restaurant dream, and was gaining even more experience as a promoter. For Memorial Day that year, he participated with a group of event promoters in organizing a party at Renaissance, a club and restaurant on the 3rd Street Promenade in Santa Monica. It had been a minute since he had something concrete that he was passionate about, and he couldn't wait to reveal his big plans to his family once the wheels were set in motion.
We don't get to spend very much time together, so I'm very glad that I was able to be here and spend this time with you, because God knows where I'll be in a year.
On the evening of June 12th, 1994, excited and famished from her daughter's dance recital, Nicole, her kids, friends, and family members would stop by Mezzaluna's for dinner. Ron had been working a 5-hour shift that evening, though he wasn't the waiter who served their table. And after the party left, Nicole's mother, Judy, realized that she didn't have her reading glasses and called the restaurant to see if she had left them there. The staff began looking all over and found the glasses outside by the curb where the customers get dropped off. Initially, the staff agreed to have the glasses placed in a white envelope and that Judy would pick them up the next day. However, Nicole herself would call up to the restaurant and ask to speak to Ron. Once on the phone, they agreed to have Ron stop by her home to deliver the glasses, as it was just a few blocks away. After clocking out and spending some time talking to his managers, he would leave the restaurant on foot, but decided to walk back to his apartment first and get changed and freshen up, as he also made plans to meet with a buddy of his and go out later in the night. One of his other friends had let him borrow her car while she was out of town, so the plan was for him to drive by Nicole's and drop off the glasses on the way to meet up with the boys. After leaving his crib and driving 5 minutes to Nicole's, he parked down the street as there were no parking spots in the front and walked up to meet Nicole by the front gate of her condo and unknowingly walked into a death trap. Both Nicole and Ron would be brutally murdered right there at the gate in what was described as an extreme overkill. An autopsy determined that Nicole had been stabbed 7 times in the neck and scalp and was nearly decapitated. Ron suffered more than 15 knife wounds, including fatal stab wounds to his neck, chest, and abdomen. Ron, who had been backed into a corner in the front of the yard, put up a fight, and he fought hard for his life. In an unsettling report, it was revealed that one wound indicated a twisting of the weapon, as if he tried to wrestle himself free, which only caused further ripping of the skin. It was a very gruesome scene, and after the stabbing, the killer, or killers, fled on foot. The attack took place sometime between 10:15 and 10:45 p.m. Nicole and Ron's bodies lay just feet away from one another, with the glasses in an envelope nearby, for nearly 2 hours, before Nicole's dog Kato, who had been in the street barking non-stop with bloody paws, had alerted neighbors who were in the area to the bodies, which were discovered just after midnight. The authorities were called, and overnight the brutal slayings were front-page news, not only in Brentwood, but nationwide, with the headline that read, "Ex-wife of OJ found slain in double murder," with articles that read that she was apparently stabbed to death along with a young man in a bloody walkway at her condominium. Immediately, Ron's friend group were all devastated, and they had met up at Metsaluna's to tell Ron the bad news, as they just knew that he too would be devastated once they broke it to him.
We talked 3 days right off the bat, and not one of them was wrong. And right off the bat, we were like really concerned.
I had this eerie feeling. I just knew, like almost like a bad omen. I knew that it had been. I don't know why I had that feeling, and it was scary. It really was.
As the day went on, Ron's manager, John, the last person he had spoken to, had tried calling the Goldman family's home phone and left several voicemail messages urging them to call him back. And when Ron's stepmother, Patty, finally came home around 4:30 and checked the messages, she called the number back, and the manager, John, had asked, "Do you know where Ron is?" And Patty, wondering why he didn't just leave a message on Ron's answering machine, asked him, "Why are you asking me where Ron is?" John said, "Because he was supposed to call in for his schedule, and he didn't call in." Patty said, "But why are you calling here? Ron doesn't live here. He lives in Brentwood in his own apartment." The manager replied, "Well, this is the emergency number he had on his application." But there had been a tone with the manager's voice that felt as if something really bad had happened. And Patty had replied, "I have no idea where Ron is. How dare you call our house and leave such a pressing, urgent message? I thought something had, God forbid, happened to Ron. Don't ever do that to us again." The manager apologized and hung up, and not even a minute later, Patty received a call from the coroner's office.
Yeah.
By now, Ron's father was just walking in from work when the office basically told him, "Hey, you heard about that killing on the news with OJ's wife and them? Yeah, that second victim, dude that was with her? Yeah, that was your son."
The woman on the other end said, "I'm sorry to bring you this news, but this is a coroner's office. Did you hear about that Nicole Simpson was murdered? Well, I'm sorry to tell you that Ronald, your son, was the other victim." And Fred's face turned so white. I mean, I started screaming. It was like,
no comment.
Unbelievable. That, I mean, it was such a shock.
It's a nightmare.
His family couldn't fathom the thought of anyone wanting to hurt Ron. It had to be some mistake. They had to have had the wrong guy. But the office told them, no, the license on the individual found says Ronald Lyle Goldman. As Ron's family would be mortified to learn about his demise, the public demanded answers, and their attention quickly turned to Nicole's husband, OJ, as their prime suspect. He had only lived a short distance from Nicole and managed to catch a flight to Chicago around the time the bodies were discovered, and many people believed it bought him just enough time to establish an alibi.
That O.J. Simpson wore these gloves, dropped this left-hand glove at the scene, and then in the struggle cut his left middle finger, and that his cut finger left this stain on the door of the Bronco. That when Simpson arrived at his mansion sometime after 10:25, he saw a limousine waiting for him at the other entrance. He parked the Bronco here on Rockingham. That he left a trail of blood on the driveway as he went toward the house. That somehow he left this right-hand glove behind the guest house area, making thumping sounds around 10:40. That some 17 minutes later, the limo driver saw Simpson run back to the main house, that Simpson quickly cleaned up, took a bag full of bloody evidence, and got in the limousine for his flight to Chicago.
Nicole had met OJ when she was just 18 and he was 30. The two began dating while his marriage to his first wife was on rocky ground. Eventually, he divorced her and married Nicole in 1985, and they would have 2 children. But the tumultuous marriage was riddled with infidelity, and Nicole would be regularly beaten and tormented whenever she tried to speak out against OJ's actions. But OJ, the football legend, who was regarded as one of the great...
Yeah, I'm about to say, nigga, did you say Nicole met him when she was 18 and he was 30? Yeah, he's definitely doing that power thing. What the hell?
Greatest running backs of all time, was only ever arrested once, in 1989, after police responded to their residence to find Nicole bruised and battered, screaming, "He's gonna kill me, he's gonna kill me. You never do anything to him. You talk to him and then leave." OJ would plead no contest to spousal abuse. Nicole, however, would later drop the charges, and it's been speculated that she may have done this after considering the welfare of her children and several of her immediate family members, who OJ had employed. He had even put one of her sisters through college. Not to mention her own parents had encouraged her to reconcile with him. But in any case, by 1992, she had had enough and filed for divorce. The process of fully separating from OJ, however, was lengthy, and over the next 2 years, the pair would rekindle and split up again numerous times, as he was all she knew. But she had to get used to living and loving without him. And it took time, but by June of 1994, she was completely over him and ready to get on with her life. OJ reportedly had grown increasingly persistent in his demands that they reconcile.
I'm lying right now all across America. That she is my woman. I'm taking her tequila. That's why I'm not singing tonight.
Thank you very much.
What?
And allegedly had even threatened to take her life if he ever caught her with another man. He was stalking and harassing her constantly, and in one instance, even kicking down her back door after he went through her photo albums, which contained photos of her with an ex-boyfriend. But the night before her murder, OJ would show up to a black tie event with an actress named Paula, who he had been on and off with. And this had excited Nicole, as it looked like he had finally moved on for good this time. But Paula would officially break things off with him in a voicemail message the very next day. Immediately following this, OJ would meet up with Nicole and the kids to attend his daughter's dance recital, but he was not invited to join the family at dinner thereafter. After a heavily publicized Bronco chase where OJ threatened to end his own life and went on the run trying to evade police, he ultimately surrendered and went on trial, perhaps the biggest trial of the 90s decade. Unfortunately, Los Angeles had a terrible history in racial tensions between its police department and the local black community, with wounds still fresh from the video just years earlier showing 4 cops beating a man named Rodney King to a pulp and being cleared of all charges, which resulted in the LA riots. And once word got out that the LAPD had once again cut corners in their investigation trying to nail OJ as the killer in this situation, with allegations of them planting evidence and not properly following protocols, the case quickly shifted from a possible killer being locked away for a gruesome crime to Black Americans versus the justice system once again. And the narrative painted the former as siding with OJ, as this was less about the case and more about the principle. And in the end, much of the evidence that the prosecution had was inadmissible or thrown out due to the crooked ways in which some of the evidence was obtained. After a little over 3 hours of deliberation, the jury would find OJ not guilty, and he was acquitted of all charges, which seemed like a victory to those who had underwent years of unjust punishment at the hands of the so-called justice system, and they were happy to see a black man beat the system. But for many others, including Ron and Nicole's families, it was like, damn, could y'all have picked any other brother to be the poster child for all?
Thank you. I was just about to say that, like, bro, we gotta be realistic, bro. Especially after a nigga make a book talking about if I woulda did it. Brother, man, what? What the front door are you talking about? Like, I get it. He was basically the symbol of racial injustice. So, to the point where it's like, oh yeah, bro, that was a moment back in the day where almost every black person knew where they were when he was either the trial was happening or when he got proven not guilty. But my nigga, who else would have did it? I'm just saying, who else would have did it, bro? Y'all got it, bro. That nigga, they said, man, we gonna throw away our thinking caps, bro, because you know what? It's just too much racial inequality. They cheating. It's corrupt. Get them out of here.
Why our case? Where's the justice for Nicole and Ron? Do their lives not matter? And there were a great deal of people on both sides that felt the same way. But this, of course, left America as a whole in turmoil, as it only further divided the races, as black people were expected to have sided with OJ, and white people were assumed to have sided with the LAPD. Right. Though reality, as always, was so much more complex than that. Throughout the entire case, though, Ron had been painted as Nicole's young fling, and nothing more. In a book titled Killing Time by Donald Freeman and Raymond Briggs, they stated that lipstick was found on Ron's cheek after his death. This caused Ron's father to phone in to the Larry King Live show, where he berated the authors of the book. And even today, Ron is often referred to only as Nicole's friend, or close companion, and rarely by his name. His heroic act is forgotten, shoved aside for the fabricated stories of a possible love affair, which even if they were true, Nicole had been divorced for 2 years, so Ron technically wouldn't have been in the wrong. But where national news would neglect the significance of Ron, his local Brentwood community would keep his name in the conversation. His family had received numerous letters of outpouring love and support, and when his former employer, Barry Zelds, tried to run a summertime cutthroat ad in the weeks after his demise, the community shut it down. The ad, which printed 59,000 copies in different newspapers, had announced, "These are cutthroat days," and was believed by many to be Barry's way of capitalizing off the brutal slayings. People in the community would call the store and launch a verbal tirade, and others would walk right in the store and make death threats against Barry. He himself responded in an LA Times news article saying that Ron was his friend and a real good soul who he saw almost every day, and that the ad idea was drawn up in January and printed in May, so by the time it dropped after their deaths, he and others simply didn't pick up on there being any possible correlations made. He said, "Anyone who knows me knows my mind doesn't work that way. Nobody thought about it until we got that first call. I would have pulled the ad in 2 seconds had I known what pain it would have caused." Also after the trial, Ron's father was approached with offers to have OJ eradicated from existence, but he refused. Ron's sister Kim was driving and seen OJ in the parking lot, and didn't give in to the temptation to run him over. Ron's family, however, would instead file a civil lawsuit against OJ in 1997, and the jury found him liable.
Hey, I'm glad y'all let y'all humanity win. I'm saying though, bro, because it be times where you get tempted to just go left, bruh. Like, you know what? I don't even care about this no more. Let me go seek what I feel like is my vindication. It's not worth it. I swear to God, it's not worth it.
For a wrongful death and was ordered to pay the Goldman family $33 million. However, to date, the family has received very little of that money, not even 5%, and with the interest accrued by 2022, he owed them upward of $96 million. Back in 2004, OJ had said, if I gotta work to pay them, I won't work. I'll just play golf every day. But Ron's own biological mother, who claimed that she hadn't seen Ron the last 7 years of his life and not spoken to him in the last 2 years of his life, was also granted an $8 million settlement in the lawsuit, but got tired of waiting on OJ to pay it. And by 2014, she had put her judgment up for auction, which she quickly sold for an undisclosed amount. Over the years, OJ would do many interviews and recollections of what he said truly went on that night, and he even planned to release a hypothetical book titled If I Did It, which was a first-person account of just how he would have committed the crimes, of what he would have seen standing over their deceased bodies. The nerve of this man. But Ron's family said, since you want to play around and confess without confessing, we're going to snag the rights to this here book you trying to put out. And months later, they were granted the rights and proceeds from the book as part of that $33 million payout, since he hadn't been paying nothing. To date, they own the copyright, media rights, and movie rights. They also acquired his name, likeness, life story, and right of publicity in connection with the book, ensuring that he would not be able to profit from the book in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
Then they said, let me help you out a little further, and re-release the book, calling it If I Did It, Confessions of the Killer, with a tiny if. You almost got to squint to see the if on the cover.
Right.
But Nicole's family, her sister took it kind of hard. She felt as if it was a cheap cash grab to profit off of the deaths. Proceeds of the book did go towards the Ron Goldman Foundation for Justice, which provides grants for multiple organizations and programs that provide resources to victims and survivors of violent crimes. Shortly after this, though, OJ would get 33 years in prison after he and his goons entered a room at the Palace Station Hotel Casino and took sports memorabilia, which he later said were originally stolen from him. He was convicted by an all-white jury this time. They was gonna get him for something, although he would be paroled after 9 years. In 2019, coming up on the 25th anniversary of Ron's death, his sister Kim would start a podcast called Confronting O.J. Simpson with Kim Goldman. She also sat down with one of the jurors from the original case, who revealed that the speedy 3-hour deliberation all those years ago was nothing more than a smokescreen to buy time, and that the decision was already unanimously made to acquit O.J., which was very disheartening to hear. She also spoke on the grief that never ends, having her brother, who was everything to her, be taken away in such a violent manner, only to receive little to no justice even after all this time.
Right.
People inquired about whether or not she'd invite O.J. himself to be on the podcast, but we'll never see that day, as on April 10th, 2024, O.J. would pass away after a year-long battle with prostate cancer at the age of 76. His death brought about mixed reactions online, for obvious reasons. And right out the gate, O.J.'s longtime attorney, Malcolm Laverne, told the Los Angeles Review-Journal, "It's my hope that Ron's family gets zero, nothing, them specifically, and I will do everything in my capacity as an executor or a personal representative to try and ensure that they get nothing." And even though he later tried to backtrack, saying that he could have worded his statement differently, Ron's father maintained his position, saying that O.J.'s death is no great loss to the world, and that if anything, it's just further reminder of Ron being gone all these years.
Right.
And as for the attorney's statement, Fred said that the bottom line is we've been pursuing justice for many, many years, and for us the continuation of that has nothing to do with whether or not O.J. is deceased. We will continue to pursue that judgment and justice for Ron. Nothing has changed. It's not up to the attorney what anyone gets. He's just an arrogant guy who likes to play power man, and he is not a very nice person. He is not worthy of conversation, so I have nothing to say to him. Now, because O.J. was found not guilty, I want to take the time out to highlight just a few of the multitude of other theories on just what happened that night. What is believed is that Nicole was the intended target, and that whether they were attacked after they met up, or if Ron had saw Nicole being attacked, one thing is for sure is that Ron wouldn't have fled to save himself. All his life, he had taken on the role of the protector, and his family believes that that's what he had attempted to do in those final moments. Though, some cast doubt on Ron and Nicole having squeaky clean images. It is believed by many that Nicole and Ron were caught up in the substance trade, and this theory harps on the fact that Metzaluna had been a spot where certain substance deals were being made quite frequently in the 90s. This theory suggests that Ron was not only coming to Nicole to drop off glasses, but to also deal with a third or fourth person, and that they were set up by those persons and stabbed to death instead. People supporting this theory point to the fact that a few former employees of Metzaluna had gone missing and were never found, and that one of Ron's close co-workers, Michael Nick, was gunned down in 1995 in an apparent robbery, but the killers took nothing. And like in Ron...
But what the fuck? I ain't gonna lie. See, and this is where we go back to the LAPD's corruption. Like, nigga, they thought they had their man, so we just gonna plant this evidence, allegedly, because I don't know about the case for real. I'm gonna keep it a stack. But, yeah, we just gonna plant this evidence here. That look good enough. All right, yeah, we got a conviction. Nigga, what if it was a whole nother... See, now this sound... It's damn this borderline sound conspiracy, but what if it was a whole nother John going on? Like, yeah, nah, this not really what you looking at. it might seem like that, but nah, it's really drug deals and boom, boom, boom. They doing this. Cause I'm like, bruh, no offense to Ron, but how the hell is Ron getting all these damn connections this fast? Nah, it might just be because he's a sociable person and people like his energy. But it could also be that nigga got the and he movement, man. I'm just saying he moving something. Young trafficker.
Ron's case, suspects were caught but later released.
I hope that's not
and
the
the case remains unsolved. Though Michael had quit working at Metzaluna a month before Ron's death. Not to mention, another man in the area associated with Ron, named Brett Cantor, had his throat cut in a similar manner that Ron did. His death occurred a year prior to Ron's, and Brett, Ron, and Michael were all around the same age. This theory also somewhat paints Ron as the intended target and Nicole as collateral damage.
Right.
And all three of these cases are unsolved. Another popular theory is that OJ's son from his first marriage was the real killer, and that OJ had covered for him. In the book, OJ is Innocent and I Can Prove It, by William C. Deere, this theory is explored as OJ's eldest son, Jason, who is a chef, was alleged to have an affinity for knives and a crush on Nicole. There had been past instances of him stalking her, and she had reported those instances to OJ. Jason himself had past incidents with former girlfriends that involved knives. The weapon used in the murders was a knife. He was also known to go into a fit of rage whenever he didn't get his way, and was off his medication at the time of the murders, and his whereabouts couldn't be accounted for, either. This theory suggests that Nicole was supposed to go to his restaurant on the night of June 12th, but went to Mezzaluna's instead, and that Jason had stopped by her house to see what she was doing, and caught her with Ron out in the front, then pulled out one of his knives and attacked, and that the only person that OJ would have covered for would have been his son. It's a very interesting take, and it wouldn't be the first time that a parent took the rap for one of their own.
That would make
but
sense.
This theory, like the last, is entirely circumstantial. Also, famed serial killer Glenn Rogers will go on record claiming to have been the one to commit the murders, stating that he had been working for Nicole in 1994, and that he had made verbal threats about her, and remarking that he had been hired by OJ to steal a pair of earrings and potentially murder Nicole, which he then carried out, allegedly. However, the LAPD and Ron's own father shot down Glenn's claims, and many believe that because he sits on death row, he's got nothing better to do than lay claim to one of the most infamous murders in history. His account, however, would be featured in 2 TV documentaries. And even recently, a new source named John Dutton has come out and claimed that OJ had hired 4 hitmen to carry out the crimes, while OJ himself was on site and orchestrated the whole thing. I'm not sure if anyone buys this claim, not that it really matters, but in each and every theory online, the killer or killers have evaded justice. To date, no one else has been charged in connection with the deaths of Nicole and Ron, and their case remains unsolved. Ron is buried at Pierce Brothers Valley Oaks Memorial Park in Westlake Village, California, and Nicole is buried in Ascension Cemetery, Lake Forest, California. Man, rest in peace to them both. They were too good for this cold world. But I do take comfort in knowing that judgment awaits on the other side. This is Justified by Jury. Y'all know how to hit that like, and y'all know how to hit that subscribe. If you want to, do so. And I'm gonna catch y'all in the next video.
Man, again, another great video by Jury. I'm glad I got to know who Ron Goldman was. Not just another victim of OJ or allegedly OJ or whatever the theory is, but Ron Goldman, the person, his upbringing. That's, I don't know, bro. Like all them theories, bro. Some of them, I'm like, bullshit. Then the theory with OJ's son might have been the one to do it. I feel like that's like a 33% chance. About a 33%, 33 to 23% chance. When you say, well, it could have been that Mezzaluna, they selling drugs and boop, 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 boop. We in LA, other people that worked at Mezzaluna and then went missing, 2 of this man co-workers then out. Why is nobody investigating these? Because that sounds like a 65% chance. Nah, that's too high because I think OJ did it. That's the end of the video. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe, share the video, share your thoughts on the video in the comment section below. Hit the notification bell so you can stay updated when I drop videos on the channel. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Stay safe, y'all.
Baby, slide by to my mind.